Hello, my students. I trust that everybody has come through Hurricane Sandy unscathed, other than the fact that we had to miss class on Monday. So I'm going to do something here that I've actually done before once, and I'm going to try it again. And that is, I am producing this video, which will be in lieu of our class. So we'll just have to tolerate a sort of a lecture for this class that was originally scheduled for October 29th. The subject is the Book of Kings and readings from the prophets. So I really would like to begin with just go right into the guiding questions. And I wanted you to take a look at the readings from the Book of Kings. We read from 2 Kings chapters 14 to 16, 18 to 19, and chapter 22. And I wanted you to look for some overall themes in these passages. What are these? What is the writer of these passages trying to tell us about the interaction of God, the kings, and the flow of history? And I want to go back to a comment actually that I had made earlier about this part of the Bible that we call the Deuteronomic history, and take it back also to something that we had sort of said also about the Torah, the Pentateuch. And it's something that I just want to remind students about, and that is that the Pentateuch, the Torah as we have it, and also the Deuteronomic history as we have it in our Bibles today, are the product of scribes, scholars, teachers, prophets, royal officials who were under the direction of the palace in Jerusalem, under the direction of the Davidic king, under the direction of the temple in Jerusalem. They are Judean documents, some of them mainly compiled and edited by the priests of Jerusalem, and they are Judean documents. And as we know that there were two Hebrew kingdoms in Israel up until the year 722 BCE, a kingdom in the north, the kingdom of Israel, and a kingdom in the south, the kingdom of Judah. But following the Assyrian conquest of the northern kingdom in 722, these scribes and scholars and preachers and teachers and priests of that kingdom moved south and brought their literature with them to Jerusalem, and that literature was incorporated into what we now have as the Pentateuch, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and the Deuteronomic history. And therefore those documents really represent a kind of southern preferred southern flavor. That is, they have the editorial marks of the priests and prophets and scholars and teachers of the south. They are Judean documents. And I bring that up to point out to you that indeed we do see in the Deuteronomic history general a preference, a clear preference for the kingship of King David, for the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. And we're going to see that in fact the Deuteronomic history, the literature of 2 Kings in particular, clearly has a preference for the kings of the south, the Davidic kings, the kings of the southern kingdom of Judah, and a clear preference against, a clear tendency against the kings of the north, the kings of the kingdom of Israel. So just to sort of demonstrate this, I want to take a look at two passages from the book of 2 Kings. I want us to turn to 2 Kings chapter 14. So take a look there. Take some time to turn in your Bibles to 2 Kings chapter 14. And we're going to look at how the book of Kings, part of the Deuteronomic history, relates specifically to two kings, namely King Amaziah, a king of Judah, who ruled during the 8th century BCE, and a king that ruled at about the same time, or maybe even at the same time, a king known as Jeroboam, who ruled the northern kingdom of Israel. This particular Jeroboam is the second king of Israel named Jeroboam, so he is Jeroboam the second. And I want to show you here how the Book of Kings has this very clear preference for kings of Judah, the kings of the southern kingdom of Judah, the descendants of King David, and a clear preference against, a clear sort of enmity towards the kings of the north, the kings of the northern kingdom of Israel. So if we read 2 Kings chapter 14, beginning with verse 1, we see it says, "In the second year of King Joash, son of Joahaz of Israel, King Amaziah, son of Joash of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoadin of Jerusalem. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord, yet not like his ancestor David. In all things he did as his father Joash had done. But the high places were not removed. The people still sacrificed and made offerings on the high places. As soon as the royal power was firmly in his hand, he killed his servants who had murdered his father the king. But he did not put to death the children of the murderers, according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, where the Lord commanded, quote, 'The parents shall not be put to death for the children, or the children be put to death for the parents, but all shall be put to death for their own sins.'" And if you just read on, you'll notice that this passage is not terribly friendly toward King Amaziah. It mentions a lot of things that he really didn't do right. He didn't take down the high places. It means that there was worship taking place outside of Jerusalem, which the Book of Kings is not particularly fond of. The Deuteronomic history prefers a centralization of worship in Jerusalem. We've discussed this before. So he's not such a great king, but yet the Book of Kings, this passage, does say in verse 3 that he did what was right in the sight of the Lord. As I say, what I would consider a certain preference for the kings of the kingdom of Judah in the south. If you go and look at his contemporary, King Jeroboam II, it says as follows. Go to chapter 14, 2 Kings 14, verse 23, and it says, "In the 15th year of King Amaziah, son of Joash of Judah," that's the king that we just read about, "King Jeroboam, son of Joash of Israel, began to reign in Samaria. He reigned 41 years. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, which he caused Israel to sin. He restored the border of Israel from Lebo Hamat." I have to turn the page, as I'm sure you do also. Sorry, hold on. These pages are hard to turn. "As far as the sea of the Arabah, according to the word of the Lord, the God of Israel, which he spoke by his servant Jonah, son of Amittai, the prophet, who was from Gath Hepher. For the Lord saw that the distress of Israel was very bitter. There was no one left, bond or free, and no one to help Israel. But the Lord had said that he would not blot out the name of Israel from under heaven. So he saved them by the hand of Jeroboam, son of Joash. Now the rest of the acts of Jeroboam, and all that he did, and his might, how he fought, and how he recovered for Israel Damascus and Hamath, which had belonged to Judah, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Jeroboam slept with his ancestor, the kings of Israel. His son Zechariah succeeded him." So we see that this king is not treated very nicely by the Deuteronomic history. In verse 24, it says that he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not turn back from all the sins of that nasty king Jeroboam, son of Nebat, the first Jeroboam, who defected from the Davidic kingdom, established his own kingdom in the north, set up those two rival shrines in Dan and in Bethel, and the Deuteronomic history is very angry at the first Jeroboam, and this second Jeroboam also doesn't get a good report, and yet it does say that he did some good things. He restored the borders of Israel. He seems to have captured territory that had been captured by the enemy. And we know that, in fact, this was a period of time of great prosperity in the northern kingdom of Israel, and yet the Deuteronomic history is not favorable to him. So we see that when it comes to Amaziah, even though he didn't take down the high places and he did some other nasty things, it still says that he did what was right in the sight of the Lord. And yet, for Jeroboam II, even though he did some good things by restoring conquered territory, it says that he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So we see, as I say, this general tendency of the Deuteronomic historian of the Deuteronomic history in the Book of Kings to favor the southern kings of Judah against the northern kings of Israel. Now, I asked the next question, where does prophecy enter into this picture? And I want to point out, actually, before I go into that question, that the Deuteronomic history generally is not terribly favorable of any of the kings of Israel or any of the kings of Judah. They all get a mixed review. I think that the kings of Judah are handled a little bit more delicately, or given a certain more favor than the kings of Israel. But there are really no kings, it seems to me, in the Deuteronomic history that get an A+ report from the Deuteronomic history, from the Book of Kings. There are two exceptions to that. The two exceptions are King Hezekiah, who ruled at the end of the 8th century BCE, and King Josiah, who ruled towards the end of the 7th century BCE, about 100 years after Hezekiah. Both of those kings are treated completely favorably, or at least they get at least an A+ to an A- in the Deuteronomic history in the Book of Kings, and that is mainly because they were seen as religious reformers. They were very intent on unifying, centralizing worship in the Temple of Jerusalem. They did take down the high places. They did remove any vestiges of foreign worship in the temple, and we can see this in 2 Kings chapter 18 with regard to Hezekiah, and 2 Kings chapter 22 with regard to Josiah.